Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Simone, Head of Growth at Flychain, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's conversation. We've got a very engaging discussion lined up with two very inspiring leaders. We have Ethan Schwartzbach, the CEO and co-founder of Flychain, and Nate Meinge, CEO and co-founder of Therapy IQ. To all of our healthcare providers out there, this discussion is for you. We know the challenges you face in running a successful practice and focusing really on delivering exceptional care. And today we're diving into how Flychain and Therapy IQ together can help you achieve these goals. Before we start, I'd love to turn it over to Ethan and Nate to introduce themselves and their companies. Nate, would you like to start?
Yeah, so my name is Nate, co-founder and CEO of Therapy IQ, born and raised in Kenya, moved to the US in around 2003, and one of my first few jobs was a clinical social worker for the Department of Mental Health in Massachusetts. Switched to IT consulting for healthcare practices. Then I co-founded and launched a multi-location addiction practice, sold it to a larger practice, and embedded in there for a year to build the platform that I wanted to build, and that is Therapy IQ. So that's a quick high-level overview of how I got here.
Perfect. Thanks, Nate. Passing it on to you, Ethan.
Yeah, thanks, Simone. Ethan, co-founder and CEO of Flychain. We've built the financial operating system or the financial toolkit for small to medium-sized healthcare businesses. My background and most of our team's background is actually very kind of traditional finance, and the last 10 years in the financial technology world, helping small to medium-sized businesses get access to capital, kind of specialize in providing the right banking solutions, accounting, valuations. And yeah, we're excited to chat here to tell you a little bit more about our journey.
Perfect. Thank you both. So let's take a step back. We want to understand, every company starts with a dream or a vision. So for both Flychain and Therapy IQ, what was that vision or that dream that really inspired you to start your company? Maybe Nate, you can start.
Yeah, so for me, at a very early age, I saw family members struggle with mental health. So that shaped my perspective about mental health and addiction at a very early age. Now, I didn't choose that. It seems like it chose me. Like I said, one of the first few jobs when I got here, I actually worked in a mental institution as a tech, a nighttime tech, actually helping clients who could not help themselves. And then worked my way up to a clinical social work position with the state of Massachusetts. And I was looking to make an impact in people's lives, really. That's really what it came down to. And I found out, when I was a social worker, I was drowning in paperwork and not really making an impact with my clients, and of course, overwhelmed with the caseload. And so I exited, and I thought the best impact I could have is as an IT consultant to those healthcare practices. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I started realizing that there's actually a deeper gap because most of my clients, as a consultant, there was a gap in the business operations side of things. So we tried to put in technology to try and help them, in the operations. How are they marketing the website, all the way to from the website getting leads all the way to discharge. The entire client's journey. We were trying to use technology to help them, and I found that one of the biggest problems we had there was the technology itself. The technology, traditional EHR technology, does not talk to anything else. So we were always trying to find workarounds. So following that, I went into launching my own practice. My current co-founder Amy and I, we launched our own. It's called an IOP OP addiction practice. Grew it to 30. We started acquiring other locations and grew it to about 3 locations with about 30 team members. So it's pretty big. We grew pretty fast in the middle of the pandemic. But again, technology was always a hurdle we had to overcome. But by this point, we had started building the first version of Therapy IQ. So when lockdown happened, all the providers, other fellow providers were asking us, "Hey, how are you guys staying in operation while everybody else has been shut down?" So we started having those conversations, and it was very clear very quickly that B2B SaaS is really where needed to focus. So once we sold the practice, embedded within the practice, built out what was to be Therapy IQ, and it took us about a year and a half to build it. And my goal was to influence this with this platform. The goal was to influence the delivery of mental health services by one, improving the quality of care that the clients are receiving and higher successful outcomes because that's at the end of the game with any healthcare, you want a successful outcome. And so the more of those we can get, the better. And if technology can help, then let's do it. And the second thing was I wanted to help these providers deliver more care to more people with ease. So everybody has 24 hours in a day. So how can we get them more so efficient that they're delivering care to, even if it's two more people that day? That adds up. It compounds after a while. So that was the second thing. And the third thing was to make these practices more profitable. And that had to happen at the same time because financial resources are actually the leverage that they need. Nobody talks about that in healthcare because it's the big bad wolf, but finances is literally what is going to not only keep these practices afloat, it's going to keep providers in the game. It's going to keep providers in the market so they don't churn like I did because that was one of my biggest problems. So it was important for them to have the resources they need. And then on top of all of that, they have to stay compliant because they're dealing with human lives. So compliance is huge. There's a reason compliance exists in the world is because it takes care of all of us, the public, and make sure that we're getting the services that we need. So how can we make that simpler for the practice so they don't have to even think about it? Technology can absolutely do that. So that was my vision all those years ago. And from what we're seeing right now, the response from the market, it's definitely, we were definitely on the right track even back then. We're definitely seeing the results right now.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's amazing that you are also able to experience it as a provider yourself, experience that challenges, the hardship, and now you're in that situation to help and you have, personal experience going through that. So that's a great story.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Ethan, do you want to share the story behind Flychain?
Yeah, yeah. I kind of mentioned, earlier that we're all finance and fintech or financial technology people, unlike Nate, who actually provided care. That being said, during the pandemic, I moved home to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where I'm from, and I actually filled out my father's Paycheck Protection Program application. He was a small business owner himself. He was a dentist, ran an independent practice. And that was sort of the first light bulb moment of just how much help from a financial operational standpoint he needed. And I should also mention when I, moved home and I lived there for about 8 months, I also kind of rode shotgun to my father retiring and selling his practice. And he probably got a 15, maybe 20% discount on his enterprise value because he didn't have 3 years of buttoned up financials. It was not something that he ever really focused on, much like all of our customers today. They usually get into healthcare because they care about caring for people. And oftentimes finance can be scary or in some cases an afterthought. And, unlike Nate, we don't have the ability to necessarily deliver care, but what we can do is really improve access to finance, buttoning up your operations, making sure that you're tracking and increasing your profitability. And from our lens, partnering with Therapy IQ, improving, operations, the financial performance ultimately leads to, more folks getting cared for and higher quality as well. And Nate mentions, his mission, if he can get 2 more people served that week or that month, like that's a very similar mission to ours. We lend to businesses. Sometimes that money is used to hire 1 more person to take patients off the wait list. And so, very similar missions, but we kind of started at different places, but kind of got to the same end result.
Yeah, great. And I know we talk so much about missions, and I know everyone has that dream, but we just want to understand, and I know that the people watching this will be business owners. And starting a business is never easy. So we just wanted to understand what were the key challenges that you faced in turning that dream or that vision into reality?
Yeah, Nate, I'll happily just take this over real quick.
Thank you.
I
Yes,
think
please.
with any business, when you first get started, it's a very daunting experience. And so, just some of those table stakes things like, how am I going to pay myself? Do I have to raise money? Do I have to hire people and what order? And so these are all questions that as, business owners and founders ourselves, we had to wrestle with. And I think one of the biggest ways that we were able to, I think combat some of those things was building a village. We kind of say it takes a village to start a company. And for us, we're not necessarily like behavioral health clinical experts. We're experts on this side. And so much like our customers lean on this, like we've leaned on other partners, other institutions, vendors, et cetera, to help kind of build our company and get it to where it is today. The other challenge on a more personal level is, we're building financial services, financial technology. And for us, I mentioned many times our customers think finance is scary. And so that was more of almost like an existential challenge, if you will. How can we be the friendly finance people, make this, I think both educational but also easy to understand so that it's not as scary. And so I think those are kind of two challenges that we solve by bringing in the right folks that are experts at their specific, piece of the pie, hence therapy IQ. But also then kind of just approaching this universe with humility and understanding like we need to meet our customers where they are versus kind of telling them what to do. And those are challenges that we still see every single day and are always adding more partners and always trying to have a more educational and a better, more intimate understanding of the pain points of our customers.
Yeah, I love that. I love that community aspect. Building a business doesn't have to be you alone, with your co-founder or whatever, trying to tackle all the problems. It's always about those partnerships. Nate, is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, like Ethan said, it does take a village, absolutely, and that's something I knew even before I started this. I had, had a few other successful ventures, and founded and exited a couple other businesses, and that's the thing. You realize as a leader that you will never be able to do this alone. If you're gonna get it to scale, you're never gonna be able to do it alone, and you're gonna need partners, and you're gonna need a team that understands that. So clinical work and running a practice is very different beast to running a software company. In healthcare, people's lives are on the line. So I had to make sure that this business from day one treats the practice as a full business and not just a clinic. Traditional EHRs mostly they'll build a product and they'll just look at the practice as a clinical operation. Our platform and our whole business and my entire team has to see these practices as a full business because that's the piece that's missing in the market. And then I also wanted to build a platform that adapts to the workflows of the practice and not the other way around. We did not want the practice to now have to learn what we're doing. So that was a big challenge for us too. And how do we overcome that with design, right? And how do we overcome that with the platform itself? We also didn't want to replicate anything that was out there in the market. We saw what was out there. It was not working, obviously, for us or anybody else. So we didn't want to build anything that was incrementally better than what was out there. And we also wanted to eliminate all the third-party tools that they're using because that's the other problem we had. Spreadsheets and all this software that you have to log into, and the quality of care cannot be one. The practice owner needs visibility into the entire business, and two, the quality of care you cannot validate the quality of care when you're using multiple different siloed workflows. So we wanted everything to be all in one place. And us as a team, we wanted to focus on the practice's profitability because providers are always focused on the healthcare and delivering quality care and successful outcomes, but who's focused on the money? So we wanted to focus on the money so that they don't have to worry about that. And of course, we wanted to create a platform that has inevitable growth. Now, inevitable growth for the practice. Now, I know what my struggles were as a practice owner in building my own practice. So the platform had to take away all that thought process, and everything that could be automated needed to be automated so a human being is not doing it. Now, your question was, what does that look to Nate, right? So Nate has this idea, and it's a lofty idea, but what does that really mean when you get down to it? It means you have to build a team that gets that. Right? So it's not just me. I'm not going to be able to write all the code I need to write to build a platform like this. It's a massive platform. So I needed to build a team that understands all that from day one, starting with my co-founder, all the way to everybody else we brought into the team. And they need to be as passionate as I am and understands this market and understand this mission as well as I do so we can move fast. So that, to me, was the biggest challenge more than anything else. Because the idea is there. I know I could probably execute if I had 50 years, but I don't. Right, yeah. I need a team to move quickly. So those are the problems in my mind at that point. And the solution was the team.
Yeah, I love it. I can feel the passion when you talk. So I love that. You have to be that leader, that shared vision. You have that vision, and you have to work with a team to achieve it. Yeah, that's great. And I think a key question here, with this partnership. And specifically for, the healthcare providers tuning in, who really aspire to that dream of running a successful practice and delivering that exceptional patient care. How can Flychain and Therapy IQ work together to support them in achieving these goals? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that we will be doing together and are doing together to really help improve the operational workflows and kind of the financial livelihood of these businesses, and kind of always showing them how to improve. Whether that's very specific, automation exercises on the Therapy IQ side, and I'll let Nate kind of chat more about his camp, if you will. But for us, our whole mission is to improve the margins and improve that ultimate enterprise value. We want to be there with you from the day you begin until you ultimately exit. And we want to make sure that you're well capitalized, you're growing, you're profitable, and every decision you're making is backed by, oh, I can make this higher because I have this amount of money in the bank account, and this will lead to X future revenue in time. I think for us, one of our biggest missions, and we can only really achieve this with a partnership like Therapy IQ, because there is some unique data exchanges that we can set up, is really, how do we as Flychain go and basically give you peace of mind as it relates to your finances? And not just finances, not just capital when you're borrowing and accounting valuations, but peace of mind knowing that this is something that might be scary for you. And we're here to say that it's not. And you're in good hands with us, and you don't have to, invest any time, energy in getting this all squared away. We're there. We're kind of that rock, if you will, for all of your financial needs. And by doing so, our goal is you never stay up at night or worry about making payroll or worry about, what does my next 5 years of growth look like and how am I going to fund that growth? Our goal here is peace of mind by bringing enterprise institutional grade access to financial services and products specifically designed for the behavioral health universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Nate, anything you want to add to that?
First, it's important to remember, as a provider, as a practice owner, that in order to help more people, you'll need more time and you'll need more resources. So, as a platform, that's what we aspire to give them: is to give the provider more time and to make decisions, to think about their practice. So you're not working in the business, because that's what we find ourselves at. Most providers also have a caseload. They're also managing actual human lives, treatment. So they need time to step out, take the high level overview, and actually think about their business. So that's where time comes in. And we do that by automating a lot of the stuff that they need to do, so that they're not spending too much time documenting, double entry and stuff like that. So when you think about automation, it helps not only save time, it helps reduce errors. And it's not just the workflows that we're thinking about. It's also, we know the gaps as a former consultant and practice owner. I know where the gaps are in order for them to have inevitable growth. And one of the gaps we found was bookkeeping. That's been an open question for us forever. Is how can we integrate bookkeeping? And we keep hearing questions. Hey, we want QuickBooks. We want, and for me, I'm thinking, you can't be using the same bookkeeping software that your lawn guy uses, to run a mental health practice. I mean, that makes no sense. It didn't make sense for me. I couldn't even use it. I ended up using spreadsheets. So that's why, a partnership, it's super important for us to bring a partner like Flychain into our ecosystem, because that's what our providers need. And we know QuickBooks doesn't work. I've seen Flychain. Flychain is the answer. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel as a product. We partner with a partner who knows what they're doing, who's focused on the same people, and actually has the same mission that we had. And I can't imagine a better, partner than Ethan and Flychain, with the experience with his dad. So when we think about that, that's key. And then the second piece is, I've said it a couple of times on this call, a fully integrated platform provides you full visibility. Like, I want you to go to Paris on vacation and open your phone and log in on your phone and see what's going on with your business. How many notes have not been completed? How much money is still out there? How many clients have been discharged? How many are not being seen because someone's not doing their job? That's all valid questions for a business owner, right? So on top of all that, ultimately, as a business owner, what I've learned over my years of being a business owner is data solves everything. Like, data-driven decisions is everything. Just, you have to have the right data in order to make the right decisions. And the first thing you want to do is set up, how am I acquiring this data? How is this data clean? Because garbage in, garbage out. So the data has to be clean. We don't want double entry on the platform on your account, so that when you're making these decisions, you're not making decisions on dirty data, right? So that is as important as 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 actually seeing the client, because this is how you make sure that the quality of care is high, successful outcomes are higher, and your team is operating as efficiently as possible, because that's where your dollars are going. So, with all that, for me, Flychain was a no-brainer. This partnership was an absolute no-brainer, because we've been hearing this question from practice owners for a while. And so coming in here and giving them not only the opportunity to see their data from a clinical standpoint, but also from the financial standpoint, that's the biggest win. Because when you go to sell a business, I've sold a couple businesses just like Ethan's dad has. That's the data you're going to need. And you know what? If the data is not clean, you're getting a markdown on your valuation. And that's just the truth. That's how business works. So for me, this was key. When I sold my practice, I know what I had to do to get it sold. So for me, I'm trying to make sure that these practice owners have that from day one. The best day to have set up your business right is when you open. But the next best day to do
Yeah.
is right. So yeah.
We always say the best offense is a good defense, and there's no time like now than setting up, the right infrastructure for you to manage and scale your business with informed decisions. And
100%.
not to beat a dead horse here, but Nate, we feel the same way. Like partnering with the right type of software, institutional grade software, to help manage your business, keep all of the data in a singular location at your fingertips is really how we can also lean in and help even provide additional insights on how to improve. And it all starts with that foundational data, a shared mission, and a desire to help, these customers.
100%.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, yeah, just to wrap it up, for both of you, maybe you can share a one-liner. If someone had to take one thing away from this call, why Flychain? Why Therapy IQ? For me, the takeaway is, success starts with the right setup, choosing, the best accounting or bookkeeping, practice management solution, payroll, billing systems are all fundamental to operational and financial success. But wanted to see if there's any, final concluding liners, just so that people can come away with a powerful idea and thought here.
Yeah,
I can go.
I think
Go ahead.
go for it, Nate. No, I guess we're just both excited. You go
Yeah,
for it.
we're excited, eager to go. Yeah. I mean, mine is, look, I know practice owners, they know the clinical side of their business. They know that part. We don't need to teach them anything. We don't need to coach them. They know that really, really well, because they're able to build their businesses and grow. The one takeaway I would have from if anyone takes nothing else away from our rambling call here, is data-driven decisions are what sets apart the most successful practices or in businesses in general, and the unsuccessful ones. That's really the key. You cannot rely on instinct or emotion. It has to be just data is what helps you make the best decisions, whether it's clinically, whether it's financially. But right now, we're talking about the health of your business, and business is resources and revenue. So data-driven decisions are the way you get there. And you need to decide what happens with your practice, because this is your dream. It's not about anybody else, and data can help you do that.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's actually still a little bit of my thunder, but I would also just to hammer this home, I really think it is that village approach. It's bringing folks like Therapy IQ and Flychain together to handle the elements of your business that you might not have an expertise in, or in some cases don't need to have an expertise in, right? Focus on running your practice, hiring, training, serving really, quality versions of care, and let us worry about this. Granted, we're not in a little black box here. We're not on an island. We're here on your journey with you, but let us deal with things, give you that peace of mind, regardless of, kind of where you are in your journey.
Yeah, I love that.
Excellent.
So with that, thank you both. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Ethan. We'll definitely link all of the contact details for this video. And yeah, with that, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you both for your time too.
Thank you.